everyone, it's Chuck Hogan with Your Best Life, and welcome to Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. The app's completely free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, and on Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Well, I'm sure you all are getting tired of me saying this, but I'm going to say it again. I'm a blessed man. I am married to the love of my life. I have 3 amazing, beautiful children, and I get to call on guys like my next guest, who is my brother from another, a man of God, a man of faith. He's an enterprising entrepreneur. He believes in love, light, and happiness, and the pursuit of all of it while being married to the love of his life and having 2 gorgeous children and traveling for the next couple of months, and of all things, the American dream, an RV. Jerremy Newsome, thank you so much for being here tonight, brother. It is such a blessing to see you. And, listen, today's a twofer, so I'm dually as lucky. I got to see you this morning, and I got to have this great exchange with you tonight. And so thank you, my man, for taking the time. I know how busy you are. I know you're pulled in so many different directions, but I also know that you're called to serve, and I appreciate you at a level I can't even begin to articulate. So just know I love you, I appreciate you, I respect you, and I honor you, my man. Thank you.
Thanks, brother. You're so cool, man. This is going to be an incredible conversation for everyone watching at home, for everyone who's here. Our goal and mission is to really pour into you. So it's going to be an honor, and I'm very, very excited.
Thank you, my man. I was thinking about topics of conversation for this evening, and something that's been abundantly clear since you and I met was this whole ideology about belief. And so often in life, especially in business, as we go through enterprise and corporate America, and I'll just say the entire premise of how people posture in today's world, there's a lot of make-believe. And I'm a dreamer as much as the next person. And yet I understand that living a life where you fake it till you make it is really, truly almost the definition of imposter syndrome. When you really think about it, it's like, okay, who are you? And so I'd love to ask you, in your life, who are some of the people that you have looked up to, where their values you found as you've grown, as you've cultivated and really kind of embodied what life is about for Jerremy Newsome, that those values and rules started to coalesce and align for you? Who are just some of your role models?
Cliche answer. I'm going to start with my pops, my dad, when he was here, when he was alive. He taught me punctuality, and he was unaware of how important time is and was, and that it is our most valuable resource.
Yes.
But yeah, my dad, he was always on time. He cared so much about his word. He was very, very cautious telling someone he would do something, because if he told them he would do something, he would move mountains to make it happen. Even if he loses money in the process, if it wasn't a good financial investment, whatever would happen, he would make sure that he did it. And so that always stood strong in my soul and my spirit. And then my second mentor ever, the person I looked up to, a role model, was the Les Brown. And I just was fortunate enough to write a book with Les Brown. And his, obviously, one of the most famous motivational speakers of all time. I watched his tapes. My dad was in sales. He was a pharmaceutical salesman. So he would offer me money to watch his cassette tapes or read books, and if I did a report on the books or the tape, that he'd give me $20.
There you go.
Yep. And this was when I was like 13 or 14, because he had a job at the time that actually could have income. So he started paying me to do these things because he knew how important it was. And I just watched Les Brown, and then Les Brown eventually turned into Zig Ziglar.
Yep.
And then I went down a comedy route. Chuck, and it's going to be a long answer, but then I went down a comedy route where I started really loving comedians.
Yes.
I'm actually going to ask you this question. What was the first CD that you ever purchased? Do you remember?
I do. It was actually Depeche Mode. Uh, I'm
There
sure,
we go.
man. So yeah, yes, it was Depeche Mode, and then the
What
next
a
one,
legend.
Tears for Fears. So yeah, I remember them well.
Yeah, I think my very first one was 2000, 2001. There's a comedian by the name of Pablo Francisco.
Yeah.
And I forget where I first heard him, probably somewhere on TV. I bought his CD. I listened to the CD a million times. And what I love about comedians is they command the room. And it's one of the very few arts where everyone is focusing on just you.
Yes.
And your job is to make them laugh. Like that's your job. And laughter it's easy, it's simple, but it's also very hard if you're not funny. And I loved it. I thought it was super intriguing. So I went down the comedian route for probably 6 years, studying Jim Gaffigan, Pablo Francisco, Brian Regan, Ellen, Whoopi Goldberg,
Sure.
Jerry Seinfeld. I studied comedians like crazy. I learned how they spoke. I learned how they paused. I emulated them. I practiced them. I repeated their exact routines over and over and over until I became funnier and better with timing and better with human interaction. And then around 24, I went Tony Robbins. And then after the Tony Robbins route, I was aware now that there was a much bigger world. And then I started learning from everybody.
Yeah.
I always believe that there's a teacher appears when the student's ready. Everyone's always heard that phrase.
Yes.
And I've had many great teachers come into my life, and I've learned from some incredible souls.
Well, awareness and acuity, right? And reasons and seasons. So I get it. I used to love, God rest his soul, Robin Williams was one of the people, just his ability to be so spontaneous. And it didn't have to be coined. He could literally riff on anything.
Yeah.
And that's what was just so remarkable. To your point, and I look at these folks and I go, okay, what's the one commonality for people that seem to be the happiest? Because we can use Robin as an example and go, here's a man who ostensibly was the world's entertainer. I mean, who didn't know Robin Williams, at least by name? And yet at some point in time, are the actions of the man? Or are they in response to what the world expects of him as an entertainer or as a father or as a husband or ex-husband or USO, man of the year? I mean, the guy used to travel incessantly overseas and entertain the troops. He was compelled to do so. And you're like going, okay. And yet, no different than John Candy and many other people, Chris Farley. It's like, when does the identity start to shift into misalignment where now self-value or the expectation of what we feel others might believe we should be by comparison to where we're actually living? And this is the separation that I often state between fake it till you make it and believe till you achieve. Because earlier in their careers, I gotta believe, brother, that they believed till they achieved. It's like, you have to, the biggest misconcept that I found with most people, and I applaud the human brain. I love the concept of cerebral interaction and engagement and how IQ meets EQ. So intellectual quotient meets emotional quotient. And then I started to understand too that we were told something from the time we were little kids, Jeremy, and I'd love to get your take on this. And that is, we were told that you can do anything you put your mind to. Because whatever you can conceive, the body can achieve. And I was like, okay. Then I started looking at the people who are really making it, and I'm like going, isn't it that you can achieve whatever you put your heart to? Because the drive is so incessant and strong, and it's like, man, I will do whatever it takes. I will be consistent. I will push my mind. I will elevate my spirit. How does that resonate with you? I'd love to, because I can see, boy, the cogs are turning.
Oh, you're spot on. I love that quote. What you just mentioned, right? You can achieve anything that sets your heart to. It's a different perspective, right? A lot of people have heard the term mindset, but how many times have you heard the term heart set, right? Where your heart is set on something, you're focused on something. What it comes down to is clarity. It really does. It comes down to clarity. You have to know roughly where you're going.
Hmm.
And if you want to be an astronaut, a professional basketball player, if you want to be a chef, if you want to make the world's best pizza, you have to pick some direction and walk that direction for a period of time. And what most people's fear is like, what if I walk down this path and it's not the right path?
Mm.
It's like, brother, it's never the right path. It's okay. Just walk anyway.
Sure.
There will be a left, there will be a right. Take one of the turns, enjoy while you're walking, figure out how to make progress. Most humans are usually most fulfilled and happiest when we are making progress of some kind. And so, in the example of Robin Williams and Chris Farley, in my opinion, of course, I believe it's because they reached the pinnacle. They did everything they set out to do, right? Robin wanted to win an Oscar or an Academy Award.
Yep.
For a non-comedian. He did that. He won the biggest show in the world. He did that.
Yep.
He accomplished so much over here, but what he was not progressing in was other attributes: spirituality, physicality, emotionally, mentally, right? Maybe he was not playing chess and he probably should have, or maybe he wasn't going on long runs and he should have. There was definitely a certain perspective where we need to make some type of progress in life for sure, in order to really, really sustain and create things that get us excited. Because one of two things are happening. We're either being pushed by our problems or we're being pulled by our purpose.
Absolutely.
And most individuals don't know what their purpose is. And so we're just getting pushed by problems. And when you're getting pushed by problems and pushed by pain, that fuel doesn't last very long. It's very, very quick burning. And when you have more of a pull, that energy lasts a lot longer.
No, that's a great explanation. It's, for all of our listeners out there. So what are we really talking about? We're actually talking about being real and getting clarity and understanding for you and understanding your why. Yeah. Your why, like Simon Sinek says, your why is who you are. It's what you are. It's who you are. And when we understand why it's so important that you feel this way, I know in the case of Robin Williams, he developed a form of dementia, and he was starting to lose his skill, his perception of that wit, that drive. He was forgetting things. And he had actually gone through an experience with Richard Pryor when he was diagnosed with his neuromuscular ailment. And then he went through Christopher Reeves and the death of Dana Reeves. And he saw what happened to one of his best friends. And when he found out he had this ailment, he put himself in this identity that I will never be a victim of circumstance and be that issue for my family. So to your point, for someone who served in his lifetime billions of people, those that were closest to him, he did not want to be a burden or a hindrance to.
Right.
And this is going to sound maybe a little confrontational and cryptic. He left this world on his terms. And I know that's rude and disconcerting to anyone when we're going, but the people who left behind, I said, I know, and I can only imagine, and this is my hallucination, that he felt like he was doing the most selfless thing he could by not making others go through the suffering that he had experienced with his friends. And that sounds like a cop-out, and yet maybe that was his purpose and why, was to let people remember him the way he was and not what he thought he was becoming.
It's a beautiful point, man. I like taking stances where most people might not be thinking about exactly why, because there are three sides to every coin. A lot of people say there's two, but there's three. And a lot of people see the other person's perspective or his perspective. And what we're doing is we're trying to think of, all right, if you have a why, a purpose, a why so big it makes you cry, something that allows you to sit in and create change and create income and create impact and enrichment and really pour into the souls of the world, it's going to come with judgment.
Yes.
It's going to come with haters. It's going to come with criticism, no matter what you're doing.
Absolutely.
If you're the greatest basketball player in the world, people are going to say you're not. If you're the greatest baseball player in the world, people are going to say you're not. People are going to say you do steroids and you're cheating and you're doing all the things. What not only Robin Williams did, but what so many other incredible individuals who've lived on this earth are doing for this world. It's the same thing that every single person who's watching here is doing, is face that criticism, right or wrong. When you die, which we all will, to guarantee, we have to figure out why you're living and figure out how to walk with intentionality and direction and purpose every single day. I'll tell you a crazy story. One of my dear friends and business partners, her name is Brittany Turner. Her best friend was diagnosed with colon cancer about 3 years ago. He had just gotten married and just had a baby boy. And she was standing at his funeral giving his eulogy and was telling everyone about how beautiful this man was and that he got diagnosed with a terminal illness. Now, everyone knew that, but she was looking at everyone in the audience and she said, the things that he did in that last year of his life, the way he lived, the way he woke up, the way he smiled, the way he had appreciation, all of these things that were happening to him and for him, all of these gifts that were being given to him, all the way he was living, he was so happy and he was so present, and he was so inspired and so fulfilled. And she looks at everyone in the crowd and she goes, wouldn't you want to live like that?
Right.
And everyone was silent. And she says, well, you all have a terminal illness. It's called being a human.
Yes.
So go live like that. And dude,
you're terminal. It's like, you come in, guess what? Clock's ticking.
Clock is ticking, baby. So it's like, people, like, let's go. You're gonna get judgment, you're gonna get criticism, you're gonna get haters. Try really, really hard. Put yourself in a position to win. Be there. Be at the field, on the court, in the room. Be where you need to be. Be where your feet are to really make progress, make forward movement. And when you're doing that, that'll sustain happiness.
Oh, definitely. You know, it was interesting when you were saying that. What was just kind of filling me up was, I've heard so many people go, well, just look at someone you admire. And they'll even try to NLP this or neuroscience condition it. And they'll go, oh, just do a New Orleans flexibility drill. See the person, how they would approach this challenge, this problem, this opportunity, and then step into their body and adopt, their characteristics. And it's like, okay, does that feel natural to your body? Does that feel congruent with who you are? And it's like, no, that's total imposter syndrome. And there's even it's a technique. It's actually a bona fide, psychological and behavioral strategist technique. And they go, but Chuck, when you say believe till you achieve, I said, yes. What is it that you believe? Do you believe that you're deserving? Or do you believe you're broken? Do you believe that you have value? Or that you're a hindrance? Do you believe that it's your God-given right to breathe and have your heartbeat? The universe saw fit to allow you to wake up this morning and draw breath and engage with other people and share your love, light, and happiness. That wasn't by mistake. That was by design. So if the universe is conspiring and we get to, you don't have to do anything. You can go ahead and live a life of mediocrity and survive, or you can choose to live your best life. And that's why the show's named this. And that's to thrive. This is so we get to go to the next level, that we get to dream, that we get to share, that we get to care, that we get to indulge in this beautiful thing called life.
Yeah.
I love what Simon Sinek says, and he goes, man, it's not about winning or losing. It's about staying in the game as long as you can.
Yeah.
Because, you're terminal. Why would I want to leave if I'm enjoying my life, man?
Yeah. 1,000%. And what's amazing about that to me, Chuck, and I think what a lot of people might resonate with very deeply when you're talking about earlier, you mentioned about the imposter syndrome. My wife likes to say this. Sometimes you have imposter syndrome and sometimes you're an imposter.
Yes.
And the believing, you get two choices. Are you believing in the present or are you believing in the future?
Right.
Example, if right now I believe that I'm the greatest basketball player on the earth, I can believe that all I want. Do I have any evidence of that? My play terrible at basketball, by the way. Do I play basketball? Do I put myself in that environment? Am I trying? Am I striving? Is that something I'm working towards? But if I go on a court and tell everybody that I'm the greatest basketball player, they're going to make fun of me. I'm going to fail. I'm going to play basketball. I'm going to be it's going to be a hoax. Everyone's going to laugh, and it's not going to be valuable. And I will have been an imposter. Now, if I believe in the future that I will be the best,
Yes.
and I want to be the best, I envision myself on the court. I envision myself making the game-winning shot. I envision myself winning the game, having the rings, all of that. The likelihood of that coming true is much more likely, and you will no longer be an imposter because everyone at some point didn't do anything right the first time. And everyone at some point is failing, and everyone at some point is trying. Everyone at some point misses a shot, and everyone at some point loses a game. Tom Brady has lost more Super Bowls than most teams have made it to.
Exactly. And
So
what you just said is mind-blowing. It ties everything together. And the difference is belief. It's faith. It's trust. It's understanding that your motivation isn't that I'm being something or copying someone for the sake of being them.
right.
The easiest way it was explained to me, which I loved, is they said, you can be inspired by the values that you see in someone else. What gives them the value is how they make you feel. So if it's integrity, trust, value, love, connection, growth, contribution, they may be exercising those beliefs in those actions. What you believe and the meaning you give it is what creates value to you. And it goes back to the conversation earlier today. Words are currency. They have value, they have weight, they have merit. And whatever you follow after I am is who you are. I'm loving, I'm kind, I'm intelligent, I'm humorous. It's like, yes, and doesn't mean I'm done cooking.
That's right.
There's a lot of things that go into this pie, baby.
Yep.
I love this conversation with you, man. It's so heartwarming. For someone who's out there right now, Jeremy, who's struggling with finding themselves, and this is something that, as I speak to so many people, and it's really a pleasure in life for me, I started noticing something, and there were a lot of folks when I asked them how they're feeling, because I don't ask people how they're doing. I said, "How you feeling? How you doing?" You're going to get a cognitive response. They're going to give you a laundry list of their activities. How you're feeling, you're asking them to engage.
Much better question.
That's it. It's a much deeper place. And it goes to what you were mentioning a couple minutes ago, mindset.
Yeah.
Please, y'all, if you don't take anything but this today, your mindset, you get to set, but it's based on your heart set. How you feel is the guiding force behind everything that you're aspiring for. The connection, the love, the faith, the guidance, the belief, they're all emotions, and they emote from your EQ, your emotional intelligence, your emotional quotient. And it's like, oh gosh, well, how do I know? And it's like, well, how does it make you feel? It's that simple. We make stuff so complicated.
Yeah. We do. And when people are looking for their purpose, something they haven't found yet, you're mentioning like, what if someone's lost and they don't know exactly what to do or where to go?
Yep.
My answer, my advice, do things you haven't done before.
Love it.
Start saying yes. Someone invites you to go play pickleball. Say yes. Maybe you'll fall in love with pickleball. I started doing that. My big turning year was 2016, 2017. That's when everything started shifting. That's when I remade it for the third time. I had made it 2 of the previous times and lost it, and then I made it again in 2017 and finally started keeping it. And the difference was I started pouring money into myself, into experiences, into my richness, into my wealth. And I started saying yes to everything. If there was an event, if there was a course, a product, a program, an experience, a mastermind, an investment, yes. I just said yes to everything and started experiencing all kinds of different sports. I was on volleyball. I played spike ball, softball. I was on a softball team. I'm terrible at softball, but I started playing it. And what I did is I met people. I created businesses, and I learned what I don't like, and I learned what I do like. I eventually found running and ultra marathons and that community of like really weirdo people that go out and run on mountains for hours at a time. Like I vibe with those guys and I liked them and they were awesome. And so I started spending more time with that. But that was only after 2 years. I found that tribe in 2019.
Wow.
After 2.5-ish years of doing all these random whatever's, I finally started finding some more of my niche, my hobby, some things I wanted to do, some things I liked. And that gave me a lot of purpose.
Oh, heck yeah. And I love what you just said, which is it really is getting outside of your comfort zone. It's
Yeah.
experimenting and trying stuff. You don't know you don't like sushi if you've never had sushi. And it's interesting. There's this, we talk
Tell me
about
the first time you ate sushi, Chuck.
pardon me?
Tell me the first time you ate sushi.
Oh, I was a little kid. I'm from Japan originally. So
Yeah, you started early. That's right.
dude, it was early. It was like, it must have been like maybe 2.5, if that. I'll just say over there, they don't call it sushi. It's called lunch. So it's just a different concept. But you said something, and this is really interesting. When we start to look at the modalities around pain and pleasure, that so many people, they're manifesting and putting so much time and emphasis and moving away from pain that they just perceive. And it creates this debilitating fear where they don't even step up. They don't even try. It's like, so I love what you said, brother. And that is, how do you know you don't like it? You've never done it. You've never experienced it.
I love that you brought up sushi. It was the reason I asked you because I didn't have sushi until I was 16.
Oh, wow.
16. And it was because a girl like asked me one day, I was like, hey, you want to go get some sushi? I was like, yeah. She's like, you like sushi? I was like, love sushi.
What
I'm
sushi?
getting a date. Dude, I was 16. Right? Dates didn't come around that often for me at 16. So I didn't always have this perfect beard. But anyway, I had sushi, hated it. And then she wanted to do another date, of course. And we had sushi again. And so it came to an appreciation over time. But what's interesting about it is a lot of times the things that you don't like, people will say, oh, I'm not a runner. How far you've ever run? Oh, I've never run a mile before. And you can't say you're not a runner, dude. Like, you can't say you're not a great basketball player until you play a lot of basketball. I played hundreds of hours of basketball every year from age 12 to 20. And I still am horrible at it. So I can say I'm not a basketball player. I can say baseball. I can say all kinds of sports. But most people, they have preconceived notions. I was listening to Wayne Dyer today after our phone call, Chuck. And Wayne said that all of your beliefs were given to you and everything that you know is divinity.
Yep.
I was like, what a perfect representation of our discussion this morning. Because if you have a belief, for everyone who's listening, you can have a belief that money doesn't grow on trees. You might have a belief that you're not a runner. You might have a belief that you're fat. You might have a belief that you're Mexican. You might have a belief that rich people are evil. You might have a belief that so on and so forth. Very, very long list of beliefs that you have. Those beliefs were given to you. Yes. They're not yours. They were handed down through DNA, through generation, through time, through experiences, and they're not yours. And you can change, you can shift, you can adapt any belief that you want. And when you change your beliefs, you change your environment, you change your experience, you change everything in your life.
Definitely. You know, and thank you for that. I was reminded of a friend, and they have a tendency to say this, and they go, it's just the way I'm wired. It's just who I am. I've always been this way. Oh. And I'm like, wow, when would now be a great time to shift? Yeah. When would now be a great time to stop the suffering and the blame game and the victimhood?
I love people like that, Chuck. I'll just say, like, hey, man, that's a great excuse. It's a great excuse.
Brother, you and I speak the same language. And I was not very popular with this person for a little while. Yeah. They're like, oh, you're not supportive. And I go, I love you to pieces. In fact, last time I checked, I'm the only one sitting here listening. So what do you want to talk about? What is it that's important to you? What do you need in your life? I hear a lot of the things that you've been chasing that you want, and your wants keep changing like weekly, monthly, daily. Your needs, are you fulfilling them? Are you connecting? Are you shifting yourself? Do you love yourself? Are you happy with yourself? And here was interesting. I go, well, I'm not satisfied with myself. I said, I didn't ask you if you were satisfied with yourself. I said, I'm not satisfied with just the status quo in me either. I am constantly looking to elevate, grow, nurture. I said, but I am a conundrum in action. I am someone who is constantly evolving in the world that is changing every moment. And the consistency that I have is in my belief and faith that I have the ability to be able to step into any situation. And God has given me the talent to listen and have acuity to understand and to connect with people. And in doing so, it gives me the benefit of having an experience with someone. That's what I'm committed to, having experiences with people and taking away the lessons and sharing any gift, talent, or portion of myself that I can share with anyone in that moment.
What was the most recent belief that you changed in your internal compass?
For me, it happened in 2020 and during COVID, and it's when we started YBL. And I made the fervent commitment to, I was going to surround myself with people I love and adore and appreciate and value, and that we have value alignment. Number two was I would no longer dim my light and play small to placate other people and to say yes to make them happy at my expense. I said, I'm not doing it anymore. And it's changed my life. It's this community. You're my brother. I feel like I've known you for my lifetime, Jerremy. And I say it from the center of my heart. And you know it's true because you can feel me and I feel you. And it's amazing, though. I go, how did that happen? And you and I spoke about this earlier this morning, and I believe this to my core. When you find alignment energetically with people, you become like-hearted and not just like-minded. We can appreciate the mental, gymnastics and the acumen of being able to ascertain situations, look at stock derivatives, whatever the case might be. We can look at different models of different things between relationship, physicality, fitness, pros and cons. We can, talk and engage in moral discussion. And I go, at the end of the day, I love and respect you. And I know that you would never do anything to harm me. And I would never do anything to harm you intentionally. And knowing and having that like-heartedness, it strips away judgment, where now we can be honest and open and free to have open dialogue without any kind of judgment. Doesn't mean we don't measure, because we're like going, where am I in the scale of this thing? Where? And I love measurement. I go, you can't measure what's not moving, though. And that's where, to your point, I'm finding so many people that in the perception of pain that they're not even taking action. They'll choose to go ahead and wallow in trying to move away from pain. Where focus goes, energy flows, bro.
Yeah. People love to escape pain.
Yes.
And I know you've heard this a million times, but we can only ascend as high into heaven as we're willing to descend into our personal hell. And so many people avoid that because it's painful and you're going to cry and you're going to be emotional and you're going to be a little baby and you're going to be a giant bubbling brook of tears. And that's when you heal. That's when true change shifts. Yes. When you're tired and frustrated and you no longer want and accept that type of pain, because the escapism for a lot of individuals is porn, is alcohol, is drugs. And it's not that lot. I just have a few beers every other night. It's like, well,
is it?
I don't know, man.
That's, the softeners, the softeners that people use. And you said something, and this is so valuable, everyone. Just please tune into what Jerremy's putting down here, and that is life lessons. They become life lessons when you're honest with yourself, when you put away the presuppositions of having to meet someone else's expectation and making that your life's map. You said it. You inherit all these different anchors and emotions and feelings that come along with all the experiences of growing up in different environments. And I go, okay, when you're that age, you didn't pick those things. You were tempered by those things. But here's the difference. You could have identical twins that grow up in the exact same circumstances, born moments apart from one another, and they will have prolifically different experiences and meanings that they attach to the exact same scenarios. Their perceptions are wildly different. You're going, how can that be? They have the same DNA. They're identical twins, identical. And I said, yes, not in their spirit, not in their beliefs. Right. So the spark that created you it's just like a recipe. I can have the exact same ingredients, two chefs cooking the exact same thing, and you can get two very interesting interpretations of the exact same recipe. And this is what I say.
Yeah.
This is what the good Lord blessed us with, which is choice. The freedom to choose, the freedom to decide, the freedom to connect, the freedom to commit. And to your point, I'm finding so many folks now that are so concentrated on avoiding pain that they haven't even dared to dream as to what the future could even hold for them. In fact, this is when they say pain's in the past, fear's in the future, all love and connections in the moment. They're not even living in the moment. They keep manifesting, just trying to run away, looking in the rearview mirror and not knowing anything that's even in front of them right now. Yet they're putting their foot all the way down on the gas pedal because they're trying to stay ahead of the fray. Like, that's a recipe for disaster.
You should give people an example of what that is like. Teach me, what do you mean if someone has a dream but they're too afraid of pain to chase it? What would that look like?
Sure. So there are folks that are looking to have a little bit more financial freedom, and yet they're so concerned about the debt service that they currently have and that they only have X number of hours. So instead of them trusting in themselves and say, I have an opportunity to grow beyond my current station, that will continue to play small because there's the fear that, oh, I could lose what I have now. When you're worth so much more than that, that when you marginalize yourself and you put yourself in this little box, your birthright is to grow and expand. The human condition is, and this is a universal law, you're either growing or dying. The in-between, this purgatory, oh, that is the slowest, most myopic, snail's pace death, where you're looking to just be able to go a mile and you're like going, dude, I'm moving millimeters a day. That's progress. When you're grateful. When you're grateful.
Yep. Being grateful allows you to feel every other emotion that's all positive.
Yes. And it makes it real in the moment. It makes it real in this moment. Yep. And so to your point, brother, the example is very simple. Get your own way. Dare to trust yourself and value yourself enough to have a dream, to have an opportunity to be able to they go, well, Chuck, well, what, Jerremy, what would that look like? What would a dream look like? And I go, well, ask yourself this very simple question. In fact, it's 3. 1, how do I feel right now? 2, what does that mean? What's the meaning I give to feeling this way right now? And 3, how could I feel instead? How, if I felt this way, would just shift everything. And there's a guiding question behind this. If you knew failure was not even possible, not even on the radar, what would you experiment and try today? I'm not sure I understand. See, even Siri's listening. And so I love it. It's part of that scenario where it's like going, okay, well, if there's no failure, it doesn't even exist. Because any millimeter of movement towards any outcome, goal, or feeling. I actually came up with a process for this, Jerremy, and it's real simple. Start with your why. See, when we start with just outcomes first, there's a challenge with this. Was it the old value system that you inherited? Was it the old belief system? Was it the outcomes? Are you using mathematical algorithms? Where did that outcome come from? And this is what gets interesting about this, because most of the time, it's a rectal pull. We're pulling this from an orifice that we're not using our full body. We're using our mental aptitude. We grew 100% last year. We're going to grow 100% this year. And then we attach it to an emotion or feeling, and then we take mammoth action, but it creates this gap. We have this huge gap. And I go, okay, so what happens if you don't hit the goal 100%? They go, oh, we failed, because the brain's binary. That's an outcome and goal. We failed the outcome and goal. We didn't hit it. You got 99% of the way there. Why aren't you celebrating? You know what? Didn't have it in me. Couldn't do it. Didn't have the gusto. Didn't have the resources. See, told you we couldn't do it. And then this is the scary part. Whatever emotion and feeling you attach to that outcome and goal becomes wrong. Oh, you're not strong enough. You didn't have the intelligence. You didn't have the drive. You didn't want it bad enough. And this is an absolute lie. This is completely fictitious. So let's put all this away and just start here. Your why is who you are and the way you need to feel most often. Happy, contributory, loving, kind, directed. Go, awesome. Here's the cool part. Then pick a direction. I feel this way, these ways, anytime I walk, run, move my body, read great information, have a great engagement with another human being, kiss my wife, hug my kids, play with a dog, have an adventure, learn something new. It's like, oh, geez, you could keep going all day. And I go, yes, and here's the cool part. You don't judge direction. You course correct if you need to, but you head in a direction. That's why they call this the pointer finger.
That's it, baby.
And what finishes the gap before you get to outcomes and goals and mammoth action is very simple, your identity. Who are you really? Did you remember your loving guided gift from God, that you are a gracious human being with a heart as pure as gold, that your birthright is to be happy and prosperous and full? And you also get to understand that you can eliminate or release and set free judgment, beratement, procrastination of self and others. Now, when you pick an outcome and goal, it's a full body experience. It didn't just come from the recesses of your mind trying to analyze information and come up with an outcome. It's like, ooh, no, because why? It's tied to how I need to feel myself in the direction I'm going in and who I am. And then take mammoth action. And this they'd have to pry from your dead cold hand, because this is your dreams, your hopes, your aspirations, your love, your connection. And it all starts with your why. And it's as simple as how you need to feel.
Yep, precisely. And the very first time I really even understood that was I listened to Alan Watts, and the very, very famous, like, if money was no object, what would you do?
Yep.
And that's what I was like, like, if failure is if money is no object, you have all the money in the world, so you can fail, but you still have $400 billion. What are you doing all day?
Yeah, I mean, there is no failure. You lose nothing. You don't lose time, energy, intention, money, nothing. And they're like, oh, wait. So, well, you do, and this is the crazier part, that you need this indecision is no longer your guiding force. That modality of living in that space where you can't commit to something. And that only comes down to one reason. You either feel like you're worth it or you're not. So that's the $1 billion question. Are you worth it? Do you deserve it? Because I know you need certain things. It can be. And the truth of the matter is that most of us have not been given the pleasure of going to like a date with destiny, or going through, a Dickens process with Tony Robbins, and being able to future pace, where you're doing the ghost of, Christmas past and future and present, and coalescing this. So give yourself this gift and make it simple. How am I feeling right now? What does it mean? And if you're extremely happy and you're grateful and life is amazing, then you don't need to feel a different way, because you'll feel it. We dismiss so often how good it feels to feel good. Because it's like, wait, are we hitting all the goals? There's always more. I mean, I just love that look on your face. I was like, wait, we dismiss how good it feels to feel good. And I go, well, think about it. There are some people who, you're like, how's life? They go, amazing. And I was like, okay, awesome. Yeah, there's got to be more. And I go, yeah, more gratitude for how awesome life is. More fulfillment, more, because when you're living in that energy, in that space, one of the things I admire about you, brother, is that your frequency that you resonate at. It doesn't mean that you don't have days that you get introspective, or that you might be, the Jerremy I know, just so you all know, if we're like rating from a scale from 10 to 50, he's like at 95. So a low day for him, and yes, I said from 0 to 50, and he's at 95. A low day for Jerremy's like 75, where like he might be introspective. He might be working on a project. He might be very myopic. And so here's what's great about that. He knows who he is. He honors himself. And he's living life on terms where he's actually meeting his needs at the highest level. His biggest decision is how am I going to meet those needs today? Because there's a ton of variety for him to do that. He's figured out the direction, and there's tons of ways for him to feel this way most often. And that's really cool.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah,
true.
and I would say the exact same thing about you. I think I'd say the exact same thing about you, Chuck. And for anyone who's listening who wants to feel that way more frequently, you should do exactly what Chuck just told you, those 3 steps daily. If you do those every single day, you're going to start to get yourself into a place of awareness of emotion. And being aware of your emotion allows you to realize that you are real, that you are in control of your emotions. Most emotions are synthetic. They're synthesized, right? You can make them.
Yes.
So if you're making anger, you get to decide if you're angry. You can decide if you're pissed off. You can decide if you're hungry. You can decide if you're happy. You can choose.
And
these are decisions that you can make.
Write it down.
Yeah.
You can start to see where your focus is going. Until you're aware of it, you don't know. So become aware. Become inquisitive. What if you were inquisitive instead of afraid? What if you were intrigued instead of fearful? So that butterfly effect was apprehension about something exciting rather than something, oh my gosh, detrimental. Oh, I might make a mistake. I'm like, oh, you might learn something? Wait, what? I said make a mistake. I was like, wait, yes, you might get a lesson, a learning, an opportunity, an experience. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Or we could wrap you in bubble wrap, lean you up against the wall, and you can just watch life go by. Never worrying about anything. And I know that sounds drastic, but so Jerremy, you're so prolific. I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours and hours. What would you say to your children so let's go deep for a second as we got a couple minutes left, and I want to make sure that we actually leave everyone with something that they can move forward with. As they go forward home from this conversation, that they could say, what would you say and share with your children about beliefs? Since we know that from the ages of 0 to 14, that these are actually from 0 to 7, that they actually learn about self, and from 7 to 14. What would you say to your children about belief systems that can help give them the opportunity? But we've got like 1 minute, I'm being told. So, but I'd love to hear this, and we'll wrap up with this.
With a very short period of time, my answer would be, when I tell my kids, which I will, about belief systems, challenge them. They're not mine and they're not yours. Ask me why. Ask everyone why. Try to come down to your critical thinking and try to come up with your own belief system based on what someone just told you, knowing that's likely incorrect, knowing that was likely given to them, and come up with your own belief about what's true.
I love it. Question everything. Jerremy, you're a blessing and a gift, my brother. Thank you for this time. Thank you for, I know you're, again, on holiday with family, and just know your insights and what you give to the universe is a blessing to everyone. So
thanks, Chuck.
Thank you.
You're incredible. Thank you.
I'm just going to let everyone know that this show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check it out for all the news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. All the best, everyone.